So the first thing you want to do is lay your pieces out like this, and so the middle one is just no holes, and then you've got a narrow and a wider spine. So you want to put them together and put an N or an L on the narrow one, and that goes on the left, and a W for wider, or R for right, that one goes on the right. And then these two pieces, when you fold them over, because the album folds in, the holes should overlap. So then you want to just flip them over and move them to the outside, flip them over and move them to the outside, and then I've put arrows just where they cross or meet, just as a guide, because I've assembled this 2 times and had to undo it because the holes were in the wrong place and then the magnetic closure doesn't work. So just take a pencil and put some marks so that you can see what piece is going to go where. And once you've done that, you can edge your pieces. So just rip off a little bit of tape from your spool, fold it over the edge, half on, half off, and trim it. And the same with the other end, until you have all of your pieces edged, and that's all of those outside edges. So 3 round the left-hand piece, top and bottom of these 3, and then for this piece, edge the top, that straight edge, the bottom, and then do the angle. And when you do the angle, just cut the tape back so that the edge isn't right up against the edge of the board and not over the holes. And then you're ready to assemble your album cover. And then we're going to start by joining these centre pieces together. So you want to take a piece of tape from your spool that's about 1 inch longer either end than this centre piece, and we're going to flip these pieces over so you can't see those X's, and stick your tape half on, half off the long edge of that widest centre piece. Turn it over. Take your piece like this and just, with crosses together, line it up so that you've got the top and bottom edge. You can feel it in your fingers lined up. Hold both ends, press down. So I'm pressing that back piece down onto the work surface so that both edges of both pieces are down on the tape. Jiggle it a little bit, let it fold away from you, and just press the tape on the board only, not those end bits. And then open up and pull, so you get a double gap, and then bring these tail ends in and stick them down. And then take another piece of tape off your spool and just cover that gap. You only need to cover the gap, you don't need to go right up to the edges. So that's one piece on, and then we're going to do the same with the other side. So flip over so you can't see the crosses, flip this piece over, take your tape off your spool, lay it half on, half off the edge there, press it down, and then flip over, arrows together, lay the little piece over the top one, over the bottom one rather, hold the ends together, press down, making sure that those edges are level, flip right over, press down on the board only, open up and bring your little tails in, pull them quite tightly over the top edges, and then you get a nice join, fold, and then take a piece of tape and just cover that gap. And your tape ends, you want to keep them away from the top edge or the edge. Just going to trim that one back and then fold it in so you've got your centre section done. And then you want to make sure that your N or your L is next to this large piece, because those two are going to be joined together. So we're going to flip the centre section over, take a piece of tape that's longer than that long edge, let's just move that, and stick it half on, half off the edge there. Now, if, like me, you've not stuck it half on, half off, you can lift it and just move it. It will re-stick down. And then turn over, lining up your arrows, flip that piece over so that your arrows are touching each other in the centre. Line up your edges, and then holding this both together, lift up, flip over, press down only on the board, open them up, bring your tails in, and then cover them with a strip of tape. Now, if like me you've pulled your tape off and it's not quite long enough, just pull another bit off. This will all get covered anyway, and stick it down. So that is your left hand cover on, and then just double check that your piece fits over it before you stick it in place, and then put it back so that you've got your arrows facing. Turn that centre section over, take your last piece of tape longer than that long edge, stick it half on, half off. This is just such a quick way of putting your album covers together. Turn over, arrows together, just match them up, and then you know you've got your piece the right way. And then I always turn away from me, make sure that you've got your edges level, you can feel them between your fingers, flip over and away from you, press down on the board, knot the tape, open up, and bring those last ends in and over and cover them up. And that is your album cover all assembled. And then just give them all a nice crease, and then just double check that your holes are over each other. So to add your magnets, just take a small piece of tape and stick it over the inside of this large cover, over the holes on the inside of the large cover, like that. Fold it over so that you've got the right side facing you, and stick two of your magnets in the hole, and then cover them with a little piece of tape. And then put a piece of tape over the back of these holes on the right. Like that. Now this bottom one, just try and keep the edge of the tape away from the edge of the cover. And then you want to bring them over so that they are over each other, and just let's just get one magnet. You might want to just hold them like this so that you've got that box shape. The second magnet just attract over the first, and then you know your magnets are the right way. Fit it into the hole, and then cover that hole with a little piece of tape, and that's your closure done on your cover. So when you open the box, it will stay shut. And that's it. That is your album cover all ready and finished, ready to decorate. So the next thing we're going to do is to put the spine mount and pages in. So to add the spine mounts, the instructions tell you to cut the tabs on the side of these pieces. The wider piece is piece number 2 and the narrow piece is piece number 1. So on piece number 2, off one of the tabs, if you haven't done it already, you want to cut 1.5 inches off that spine mount, because the pages in the album are all staggered. So just do a nice straight cut down that score line to the 1.5 inch mark, and then just snip that tab, the corner off that tab. And then on the narrow piece, narrow spine mount, it says trim off 1 inch on one side and 1/2 inch off the other side. So when the spine mounts go together, the narrow one sits inside the wider one. Your tabs are graded. And that's what the pages are going to sit on. So then you want to stick them together. So take the narrow one with the smaller tab to the left, and then we want some glue. So take your glue and just put, not too much, just a narrow covering on the centre of that spine mount, so it's just the 1/2 inch section that's flat. Smooth it out so that your glue goes right up to the edges, and take this piece and stick it centrally down the larger spine mount that has got the smaller cut section to the left. And when you're happy with where it's sitting, then press it on down. And then when you've done that, you can trim back. I like to fold mine and just recrease and just sort of press down right at the edges. Just take your scissors and trim off the ends of those tabs just at an angle, just at a slight angle. And that will help the pages to slot on easily. And then do the same at the bottom edge. Just trim those little bits back. Move those out of the way. And then we can stick this spine mount onto the left-hand spine. So take your glue again. If you're using the glue that came with the kit, you just want to leave it for a couple of seconds just to take and start to dry off a little bit, and then you can stick your piece down. You might want to do this with double-sided tape. And then what you want to do is find the centre, lining the piece up with the top and bottom edge of the card that you've already got in place. And then when you're happy that that's sitting straight and central on that left-hand spine, then press it down into place. And that adds the spine mounts to the album. All ready to add the pages in. So adding the pages, they look really complicated when they're in the album and they're all finished, but actually the 4 pages are quite simple. So let me just talk you through them before we stick them in. The first one has a side opening, folded top and bottom, and it fits over the spine mount. The second one is a pocket page and it has a top loading tag or photo mat. The third one, again folded top and bottom with a side pulling tag. And the fourth one that has a piece of tape just across the middle section here has 2 side loading tags. So this is how you put them into your album. So gather up your pieces. Let's bring the album back in. So the first set of pages, we can work either way actually. Let's work from the back forwards. So take your set of pages number 4. Let's just bring them in. So you've got 2 pieces with a tab at the bottom or top, and then on the same side that you've put that tape on the tab here, on the one that's got the score line, you want to put tape 3/4 of an inch in from either long edge, just across that score line, and that's going to give you the pocket, 2 pocket sections for those side loading tags. So then you want to make sure that you've got your top and bottom fold lines creased, and then you want to put them together so that the tabs slot over each other like that. Line them up, and holding them together, take off the double-sided tape from one tab. It's easier said than done. Done it. And making sure that they're sitting together, just fold that tab over to stick them in place. And then you can lift up and take the tape off. So lift up and take the tape off this middle section. Let's get the pokey tool. Where did it go? Like that. And then you can fold the piece over, sticking that section down in the middle to give you the 2 pockets, and then remove this last piece of tape, the backing, fold that over, and now your page is ready to go onto the spine mount. And because you haven't put tape right up to the edge, it will slide over. So take your glue, fold those other tabs forwards, and just put a little glue on both sides of tab number 4. And when you do that, just make sure that it doesn't touch anything else. Take your page and just slide it onto the tab. It will fit over. Straighten it up between your top and bottom edges of your album cover, and when you're happy that it's sitting nice and straight and that it moves freely, so you want to have it just to the right of the score line of the tab, then you can stick it down. Flip it over and press down on the other side. And that is page number 4 in. And then we're going to work on page number 3. So this one it goes together in exactly the same way. You've got one tab that folds one way and the other tab that folds underneath. So you want to sandwich those pieces together. So remove your backing tape. If you want to do it one end first and then the other, just make it easier. Do that end, and then this end should just fold over. Let's just move that. Bring this one in. Make sure that your side edges are all lined up straight. Press it down. So that's made your pocket, and then just crease those folds again. If you find that your page is slightly out at one side, like mine is slightly out, you want to put it so that your edge that is slightly out, the wider edge, is sitting on the top. And then this side I'm just going to trim mine down slightly so that the left edge is completely straight before I stick it onto this tab. So then we're working on the third tab. Glue either side. And slot it over that tab. And when you drop it on, it's the bottom edge that you are wanting to line up with the page sitting underneath. So get it nice and straight, just to the right of the crease line, and then make sure that it moves backwards and forwards nice and freely. And that's it. That is in. And then page number 2 is the funny one. You've got a tab on the side and the bottom of one side and no tabs on the other side. So you literally just want to fold those tabs up and over the piece that has no tabs and stick them down. Angle cut off your corners. I'm not having a good time with this tape. Let's just pull. So remove your backing tapes. I'm just going to stick that down. A little bit of glue. And then let's use the doobry tool to take this side off. And then with your page, let's just move up, with your page flat down, so the top section's folded over, I'm just going to pull those tabs up and over the page to create the pocket. And then I'm just going to use my bone folder. Let's grab it. Just to recrease all the edges. And then this one sticks straight onto the front of the second tab. Let's just move it down. So it's going to go onto the front. So you want to push the tab towards the back of the album. Take your glue, put your glue on the front of the tab only. So I'd normally take the glue down the centre of the tab, and then take your page with the tabs to the back, so where you can see them. Line it up so you're lining up your the bottom. Now just check before you stick your page in that the top of the tab, the spine mount, doesn't extend past the page. If it does, and it may well do, just trim it down and then trim that little bit off at the top, because you don't want to see that at the top of the page. Line the bottom edge of the page up with the bottom of the tab or the spine mount. Let it sit flat and line up the bottom edge of the page with the page before, page number 3. Press down, make sure that your page moves nice and freely. And that's it. Page 2 is in. And then page 1 is another pocket page where those 2 tabs fold over either end of the piece. So let's put this one together. So I'm just going to line them up and stick the 1 tab down first, and then flip over and stick the other end down. And then I'm going to have the tab facing forwards at the bottom. And then again, just check that your page sits nicely on the spine mount. It doesn't stick out beyond. Just test it first. Slot it over and on. Yep, that's fine. So glue on both sides of this tab or spine mount. Take it down the middle and then it won't ooze out at the edge by the spine. And then take your page, slot it over, let it fall down towards the back of the album, line the bottom edge up with the bottom edge of the pages underneath it. make sure that it moves nice and freely. It doesn't click. If it clicks, then it's sitting too close to the edge of the spine mount, so just pull it to the right slightly. And then when you're happy with where it's sitting, just press it down. And that's it. The pages are in the album. So now, the instructions tell you to cut the tags to go into these pages so that they're all ready. And then, what was the next thing? And then we'll move on to the photo frames. So the next thing to do in the instructions is to cut the tags that fit into these pages, and then the next video will show you how to add or how to make the photo frames to go on your pages. So to put the photo frames together, there's just 2 of these, but you could add more if you wanted to. You cut out your black card as given in the instructions, and one of the short tabs has got a piece of double-sided tape underneath the tab, one short tab. Fold that over and press it down. That's where your photograph goes in. And then take your picture and cut out the middle section. So I've cut out inside the brown border on this one, and use your ink to just ink the edges of the paper to get rid of the white core. And then use the frame. You can ignore the tabs, just put the frame on the black card, centre it, and use that as a guide to stick your picture, whichever side you want, in place just with a little glue. So you just want to stick it in the centre like that, and then lift the frame off. And then on these side tabs, put double-sided tape on the front of the tabs. So fold them inwards and put tape on the front. And then you might find it easier, leave the backings on for a minute to stick one side at a time. But you want to put your acetate onto the back of the frame first. So just use a little glue, not so much as it will squish about, and just take your acetate and pop it over the frame. Just press it down, not too hard so the glue squidges into the centre. And then the frame is ready to put onto the black mount. So I started with the bottom piece. So I'm going to take the backing off the bottom strip of tape, take my frame, centre it over the top pieces, and then if you hold that firm and press down, you can stick the bottom in place like that. And then it's easier to take the side strips off, the backings, once you've got that bottom in place. Oh, I thought I got it then. Come on. And then if you hold the side strips down and flip that bottom section up and just very slowly stick it down, working your way up the side, then your picture frame comes to life. And then flip it over, put double-sided tape around the edges, keeping that opening at the top, and then you're ready to put it into your album. So make 2 of those. The little square ones are really easy. You just cut the centre out of your picture, put acetate behind it after you've positioned the centre using the frame onto the black card mount. And then you just stick the sides down, keeping that top opening. So have fun with those and have fun making your album.